Hey, this is Kayla, Divine Dollface 111, and Groovestones on Instagram, and I'm just coming on here to kind of talk a little bit about light and dark energy, and how we are both, and how we should embrace both sides. In my last video, I spoke a little bit about embracing your shadow self, because that is integration essentially. And I feel like love and light spiritual people kind of struggle with that, because they think spirituality is all rainbows and sunshine, when to truly be a spiritual being in this carnal body is to balance the polarities that exist in nature. Excuse me. I say that we are light and dark because we are love and wrath. We are anger just as much as we are happiness. We are, multifaceted. And to sit there and say, oh, I'm love and light, stay positive, and blah, blah, blah. It's one thing to be optimistic and another thing to be fake, because nobody is positive every single day. Nobody is love and light every single day, that's just not realistic. And there's a lot of that missing in, spiritual communities. And it's kind of like handicapping a lot of people from doing the real work and making real change. They're kind of plateauing in this they're kind of plateauing in this space of stillness of and it's not even that purging stillness that you have before you enter a new chapter. It's just stuck in a wave of happy go lucky, I'm supposed to be happy, but feeling super heavy, super miserable, because they're not embracing human emotions. To be spiritual is one thing, but you still are a human having a spiritual experience or having a spiritual awakening. Those are things that you can't bypass. As somebody who, had kind of I feel like once you first get into spirituality, you go through that. You're going to go through all the different, facades of spirituality, the love and light, the all that, it's just a part of it, and a part of you being able to see who you truly are. So it's no shade to anybody who is kind of sifting through those filters, if you will. It's like how we have filters on social media, TikTok and Instagram. We have these filters, that we go through to see, ultimately, all the ways and that those filters aren't necessary, and how it's truly important to just embrace, our no filter self, while I understand, professionalism and, being cordial and things like that, I also understand that, a lot of people appreciate a real person who's down to earth and, who shows their humanity. That's why I kind of have no issues, being transparent on here, because if I'm supposed to be, this natural healer, who is sharing my experience to uplift the collective, then what kind of person would I be to not show you guys my darkness as well as my light, and not share my story and let you know what I've been through that has made me who I am today. That's just a lot of what we're missing in the spiritual community, which is something else. On social media, there is the illusion of this huge community, and I'm a part of this collective and that collective and this and that, when really the spiritual journey is one of solitude, because when you're truly tapped in and listening to yourself and what God has for you, you can't really allow yourself to be so easily influenced and molded by, your peers and what they're saying, because it will throw you completely off track. You'll be living their life instead of living your own, and I think that is a huge part of shadow work, is realizing that things are going to fall away that are not for you, and not trying to cling to them so tightly that you lose grasp on your future and all the things, and all the bright opportunities, if you will, that, God has in store for you, the universe has in store for you. You can't cling so tightly to these worldly things. I keep saying that these past couple days, and it's just so true. While we have necessities and things that we need, when we lose ourselves to materialism, it's like you lose yourself, because who are you sitting in a room full of everything that you've ever asked for in life, but feeling empty inside, That's something that's huge for me. From a personal, take, and just my experience, I had to lose everything in order to gain the clarity and kind of, inner peace that I have now. And, while I'm still human, I have times where I wish that I had certain things. I know that those things, it doesn't matter, like those things are not the end all be all to my happiness. And, that's tough, because you're not always, I think, as, physical beings, we often seek instant rewards for the work that we're putting in, but it's just, especially when you're spiritual, it doesn't work like that. It's like you have to kind of just take things with a grain of salt and realize that you don't really want to be instantly rewarded for everything that you do, because sometimes we get lazy, then that sloth kicks in, and then we don't want to continue to do the work, when I've always felt like if you stop doing the work and once you start your spiritual journey, you kind of start disintegrating a bit, you just kind of stay stagnant and you don't really grow anymore, and then you kind of rot away. But that's just my opinion on that. The spiritual journey is not for the faint of heart. It requires a lot of faith, a lot of believing in the unseen, a lot of trust falling with God, a lot of putting your protection and, your love and your faith that you once had for so many people in your life in the Lord, Jesus Christ, our Savior, because that's the only person who's going to get you through this. I think, a lot of times when people are suicidal or, having really dark thoughts and kind of just experiencing, maybe even some spiritual psychosis stemming from looking for all these physical, tangible signs that the work that their workings are working, that is kind of triggered by an inability to have faith and believe in the unseen and trust divine timing. We're not able to see every single step of the way going forward. All we can do is see what we've done, what we've lived through, extract the lesson, and move forward with the pieces that are valuable, so that we're not carrying baggage, and that is, shadow work and integration. I know we just finished a retrograde, and it's those periods are really times of renewal, I feel like the renewal comes after you review and reflect and make sure that there's nothing that you skipped over feeling, so that it doesn't pop back up when you're trying to live your best life, you know? I think that's, also, shadow work. Shadow work is, that dark energy. It's facing that dark energy, facing those heavy things, facing the things that kind of weigh us down and don't allow us to move forward in life because we're still stuck repeating those same cycles. It's the ability to let that go and kind of like embrace the new. You get a blank slate, and honoring that blank space and that clear palette sometimes can be, hard. It can be challenging because it's like you don't really it's because like you don't really know what's next. And I feel like a lot of anxiety is more so us being so rooted in, oh, I gotta know what's next, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, rather than living in the present and embracing what is now. Joy is in the now, happiness is in the now. It's not some distant thing, it's a choice, and it's not always an easy choice to make, but it's one that you have to make for yourself. You can choose to replay all the situations that make you cry and replay all the ways that people have done you wrong. It's important to do that sometimes, just so you could take note and check in with your standards and see what you're going to allow and what you're not going to allow. But you can't live there, You cannot live in a house with no lights. And that's why we have the light side. That's why, it's good to walk in faith, walk by faith and not by sight, Shout out to Miss Reed, Mrs. Reed, I love her, because that's something that she says often, walk by faith and not by sight, because God is miraculous in the things that he does, like he does a lot of very grand gestures, but they're done after he's, kind of, mulled over some things in the darkness, and a lot of times it's just like, see, you thought that wasn't going to work out, and look at you now, because he has to show you that, ultimately we're not in control. There's certain aspects of our human lives that we can control, but a lot of it we cannot, we just have to kind of, flow through it and, ride the waves, if you will. So, I said all that to say, we are the yin and yang. We are light and dark. We are love and we are wrath. We are happiness and joy just as much as we are anger and sadness. Don't ever feel bad for having very human emotions. Don't feel bad for being confused sometimes, because sometimes in that confusion, I think what causes confusion a lot is just like being too wrapped up in the, well, why did this happen this way, or the what if this happens. Confusion is another form of anxiety, if you will. It's too much looking back and asking why versus living present, so just really, bask in the now, do what you can today and let that be enough. Don't be so hard on yourself, because we're all just human. We're all just doing our best. And, as long as you show up for yourself every day and just do your best and take care of yourself and take care of what you can in that day, let that be enough. That is enough. So, yeah, I said all that. I think I'm done saying things. If you'd like to purchase any of my gems, there's 14 offerings available right now. on my Instagram page or TikTok, Divine Dollface 111. On Instagram, I am Groovestones with 2 S's at the end, GROOVESTONESS. Those things are available. I'm also available for readings or like messages, if you will. I'm going to start calling them something different because I am switching things up and seeing what feels best right now. Embracing change, if you will. So, I have also posted a new contact for me and getting in touch with me regarding custom orders. If there's something that you like made, I can do that. I do sets and, pendulums and all sorts of things. Just feel free to reach out to me. I don't have like automated response things. I am a real person handling my business all by my lonesome, and I'm not upset about it. Know that, I take pride in knowing pretty much everybody that has a piece of my jewelry or has received a custom from me. I'm somebody who loves that about being a small business. So feel free to reach out to me. Don't ever be afraid. This is a judgment-free zone. Just come correct. Don't be disrespectful, because this is not that. And that's all I got for today. Again, this is Kayla with Groovestones, and Divine Dollface 111. Have a good day.